Hi, my name is Logan. Um, I've had a lot of experience with mental health. I started working at a CRR home for adults with schizophrenia and other mental health illnesses, but primarily schizophrenia when I was in college in my undergrad. I started, I believe, my junior year in college, so I worked there for 2 years, and I ended up really loving my clients. So I stayed there and worked. Well, I worked my full-time job after graduation for as long as I could. After graduation, I then worked at foster care and adoption. I worked for a placement agency. I started in foster care, so we saw a lot of kids with a lot of heavy diagnoses. And then I transitioned to the adoption side. So a lot of my foster kids that I placed and worked through, I ended up putting them in their permanent homes. After that, I went and worked at a school called New Story, which is focused on primarily for kids with autism and behavioral issues. Um, Also, very challenging work. I mean, these are heavy diagnoses for little kiddos, and um, yeah, it was just kind of traumatic actually to be in restraints all day with kids who just really just didn't know how to regulate their surroundings. So I really put a lot out there for the workers with the autistic field, and even with like behavioral kids. It's hard. That's hard and heavy stuff. So while I was at New Story, I was actually offered one of the jobs of my dreams, which is actually probably it really helped steer me in the direction of where I want to go. I was a counselor at a day hospital for adolescents. My day hospital was primarily a step down from inpatient facility, so most of my teens that I worked with had either attempted suicide or had suicidal ideation that was serious enough to get them inpatient. Most of the diagnoses we saw there was, depression, anxiety. Borderline started to come up a lot, which is so interesting to diagnose someone so young with some personality disorders. Um, and after that, I kind of teetered around, and then I ended up taking a break from social work for a little bit because I started to get just really burned out. I didn't really know how to protect myself and how I was, you know, um, carrying the weight of my clients because I have just a big heart. And I knew I needed to figure that out before I stepped back into this field because it was pretty detrimental for my mental health and for the treatment that I could give others. So when I stepped back into social work, I started as a blended case manager for adults and children with mental health. I saw a lot of diagnosis. This was community based, so there was people with maybe mild schizophrenia, anxiety, of course, depression, a lot of mood disorders, personality disorders. I just helped them navigate the system. I advocated for them at their doctor's appointments because I feel, like a lot of times it's hard to get what you need to say and like your symptoms out in 15 minutes, but like that's the time limit and the doctors just end up rushing. Um, and when I just got accepted to Widener and I was going to start my grad program, I ended up um, going to a methadone clinic to work as a counselor there. And we saw obviously people with opioid use disorder. We did treat other addictions, but since it's our primary MAT option was methadone and Suboxone, those were the main people we treated. And then I got really burnt out. It's really hard to be in front of crisis all day long with no break and not much support. So I went back to my previous company and now I'm doing service coordination for folks in nursing facilities. So it's a lot of Alzheimer's, dementia. And I'm really grateful for this like broad scheme of social work that I've been granted. I've seen a lot of avenues and aspects of what this field has to offer, and it's been really enlightening because now I know like what I definitely love and what I definitely don't love. And also I think it's really, human behavior is all interconnected, and I've seen a lot of similarities in like the different age groups and populations that I've been with. I think with all of the experience I have, something that has become glaringly obvious to me is the concern that people who are funded through Medicaid and programs who receive Medicaid funding really hone down on needing a diagnosis from the jump. Your first session requires a diagnosis, even if that diagnosis might not be necessarily fit. And that's concerning to me because these diagnoses do stay very long, especially with these big corporations like in my area at CPMC, Wellspan, Geisinger. If you get diagnosed, like with something in one facility and it's part of this big umbrella, it's going to follow you. And all of these physicians then are going to look at this diagnosis that you've had, and it could really be effective, or it could really be, disruptive to your treatment. I've seen people with addiction diagnoses get turned away for serious issues just because they're being drug seeking, and I just think that's really a problem, and it's something that like I hope in my career I can help figure out and like see, how to help others. I think what really inspired me to come back and get my master's was the hope to kind of change policy too, because like as a bachelor level, I wasn't equipped to counsel. I'm just like, it's not that I'm not smart and I don't have the knowledge. It's that I also am not I wasn't aware of what trauma looked like and how to protect myself from other people's trauma, because I think a lot of times Medicaid wants that bachelor level because they can pay less, but it's doing a disservice to our participants and our clients. So that's my belief about, how it's ran. And hopefully there can be change the more it's like obvious and being put out in the open. The last question is like, how do you participate to make the DSM-5 diagnosis? I think it became obvious to me that like this, although I do have a lot of base knowledge, I've done a lot of, studying outside of when I received my bachelor's in 2016. I've done a lot of time and focus both in myself and my surroundings just to understand more of the clientele that I am helping, because I want to be the most effective and I want to know, how to help others. So at the methadone clinic, I didn't participate. I was told F11.20 no matter what, like that was it. So, and at least in my area of Pennsylvania, it's very particular to be dual diagnosed. And most facilities that treat addiction and through Medicaid are not dual diagnosis. So you can't speak about mental health, even though, it's all interconnected. All of these behaviors that we see are most likely our inner child crying, and just didn't know how to self-soothe. So I could probably talk about this for hours, and I see them already at 8 minutes, so I'm going to shut up now. But if anyone ever wants to have a conversation with me about this, feel free. I'm excited to watch everyone's videos. I really get inspired by hearing what makes other people click, and like seeing where other people have been. This is such a huge field, and there's so many different avenues and people you can touch. So that's why I love social work, and I'm excited. So thank you.